What's going on, you guys? It's EB Crypto, Eric Brent, Family Cash Machine, and my show is called Follow the Money. Family Cash Machine, Follow the Money. And that's what we do here. We talk about money, we talk about wealth, generational wealth, we talk about global economics, and we talk about different streams of passive income because we're really interested in helping to empower people and to help people with the disseminate information. So I'm going to talk today about the news and the lack thereof of them to share what's important with you guys as in the world. I mean, they share things as they pick and choose what to share. And if you watch any given major station, they're all talking about the same thing. But it's so much different stuff happening in the world, and they're missing some of the vital things. And I think it's not by accident. I think it's actually done on purpose. So yesterday was a day that was a historic day in the global economic realm of things that can change the dynamics of economics as we know it. So one of the things that I've noticed with what's going on is yesterday we had a day where BRICS, Britain, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they call themselves BRICS, and they've been doing this for a while, for about 10 years or so. They surpassed the G7. It's an interesting development what's happening, and the news just missed it. They're talking about, well, Putin did this and Ukraine did that, and they're talking about sports, and they're telling you guys a lot of different things that's not even really relevant into what's really something that's going to affect your everyday life. Now, I went to school in America. I'm an American. I went to school in Chicago and then all the way to California. My children, I have children, they went to school, and nowhere and I went to college, and nowhere did I really see, even in my economic studies, they don't really talk about hegemony, okay? They don't really talk about the hegemony of the American dollar. They don't teach you that, and I think it's a shame that Americans are not learning about hegemony or the hegemony of the American dollar, which basically hegemony means dominance. It means superiority. It means a specific thing or country or a social order that dominates, okay? So the American dollar has been pretty much hegemony currency in the world since 1944. That's before I went to school, okay? So it should have been incorporated in school, duh. It's before a lot of you guys went to school when that, hegemony started of the American dominancy of the dollar. Now, a lot of guys that was in the military as they were traveling to different countries, they noticed it while they were traveling. Like my father, rest in peace, rest in power. My father, who passed a couple of months ago, taught me a lot of things as he traveled the world in the U.S. Marines. And he said at one time, back in the 60s, they wouldn't even allow U.S. soldiers to take American dollars into Japan and other countries because they would want to buy those dollars, and they would buy like $1 for like $300 or $400 or something. I think it was, a matter of fact, back in the 60s, it might have been $1,000 or a couple $1,000 for $1 of their money. Their money was worth nothing. So it was like $3,000 or $4,000, I think, in the 60s. You guys can look it up. But the American dollar has had a hegemony on the world. Now what's happening is people in the world are getting tired of the American dollar because our country has used the power of the dollar as a weapon. We've weaponized our money against other countries to embargo and to sanction them from goods and services, from medical equipment, from pharmaceutical things. We've sanctioned and embargo companies from getting access to chemicals that could clean their water systems, or manufacturing in Africa, or industrialization. We've suppressed countries with our dollar and used our dollar as a weapon to not only suppress, but to oppress. And a lot of people just got tired of it. So we had this thing called BRICS that started about 10 years ago or so, and it's gaining momentum in a most impactful way. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, about BRICS has overturned the G7. Oh my God. It's a very serious time, and it's a time that people are not even aware of what's going on. But let me say this. I'm a person, I'm a type of individual. The reason I do these videos, and I've been doing these videos, if you guys look up, for years, for like at least 5 or 6 years, and I don't do them every day. I probably should start doing more every day because I'm very, very, very serious about the dissemination of information. Okay, I'm an individual that I believe that in information, okay, is the most valuable commodity in the world, more valuable than gold, more valuable than diamonds, more valuable than silver, more valuable than money. It's information. And I feel and I believe, I strongly believe, that the access of information and the freedom of information should be available for the people. And this is why I do YouTube videos. This is why I do a lot of research on YouTube or Google. You know, I don't just look at the news. I do see the news, but I also go outside and do my due diligence with other sources, and I cross-reference so I can get more of the pieces of the story, okay? Because the truth is something that is not all the time popularized. So we have to go and find it. Okay, so one of the reasons that they had the French Revolution was there was a period before the French Revolution, okay, where you had this period of aristocracy and peasants. You either had money or you were a peasant. And one of the reasons people were peasants, they were uneducated. If you read the book The Hunchback of Notre Dame, that was written actually by a black man, okay? If you read that book, Alexander Dumas, you'll find out that she fell in love with the hunchback because he had so much knowledge, even though he was deformed, handicapped, this weird deformity. But she fell in love with his mind. She fell in love with his heart. She fell in love with his wisdom. He spoke several languages. He knew all the stars. He knew so many different mathematical equations. He was highly intelligent. So this is what that movie is about. It's about information. And the reason the hunchback had so much information, because he used to clean the libraries. He was, you know, they kept him in the library way up at the top of the cathedral in Notre Dame. Thank God I had an opportunity to see Notre Dame before it burned down. I went to Paris. I actually saw Notre Dame, and he was at the top up there, and he rang the bells every day, but he was up there where the books were at. And at that time in Paris and Europe, knowledge, books were banned. So they didn't just do that in slavery. They actually did that in Europe to their own people as well. They banned books. They banned information. People were not allowed to read. And this has created such a huge disparity in the economics of Europe for years, where you had serfs and you had, you know, these peasants, and then you had the chancellors and dukes and the aristocracy. And so what happened was this period called the Enlightenment period. And when the Enlightenment period happened, then you started getting the little release of little leaflets from Francis Bacon and Shakespeare and you know, Da Vinci, and all these little information starts to leak, not to mention, which they're not mentioning, the exploration and conquering and conquest of the Moors, who also brought knowledge and information into Europe because they conquered Spain and Italy for over 700 years. From 700 AD to 1400, you had Hannibal and Tariq Jabral, which is where the Rock of Gibraltar term comes from. These Africans came in and conquered, but they bought information. Okay, they bought information, and after that information, then people started realizing what tyranny was. They started to understand what suppression was. They started to understand what oppression was, and that's what's happening today with the internet. The internet is allowing us to disseminate information. It's allowing us to cross-reference information. It's giving us access to information that we not necessarily would have if we were only dependent on our government and mainstream media. So this is why I'm covering the things that I'm doing. This is why I give the information. It's just not for EB crypto to be out here pumping, dumping coins. That's not what I'm about. I'm not about a pump and dump coin guy. I want to learn and teach people how to invest in assets that will appreciate in value, and assets that they can control. They don't need a broker, and assets that they don't have to be monitored or restricted or regulated. That's what I'm about. So if governments ever get too corrupt when it comes to money, you got you an outlet. You got you a way out. You got something else you can trade and you can barter that will give you value that you can actually continue your transactions. Because what's coming today with that CBDC. We're not going to go into that today. I actually did a video called The Global Reset talking about the CBDC and how that one coin they're trying to bring into play, which is not going to be a coin. It's not going to be a crypto. It's not going to be a decentralized coin. It's going to be something centralized that a centralized bank controls, that they can hit one button and freeze all your economics, freeze all your transactions, freeze all your accounts. It's going to be a disastrous when it comes to freedom. It's going to be disastrous. But let's go into this a little bit. I'm not going to talk too much longer. I do want to go into this just a little bit and show you guys what I've discovered yesterday, and it was not in the news. India has a company called Meg Updates, and their platform said yesterday, one of the world's largest online international platforms, Meg, stated that BRICS countries have officially overtaken G7 in share of the world's PPP and GDP, gross domestic product, and price per population. I believe that's what that means. So, and that this trend is expected to continue. So basically what's happening is all these little geeks, imagine 50 geeks getting together and jumping on the bully. I don't care how big that bully is. When you got 50 geeks ready to beat and pounce on the bully, that's not a pretty sight. That's what's going on right now with the hegemony of the American dollar. And I'm just shocked that our glorious education system, and we do got one of the best education systems in the world because I've traveled, and we do have a very good educational system, but we're cherry-picked information that they want to give us. And like I said, it would benefit Americans to know that their dollar is powerful when they travel around the world and do certain things. You know, they'll know how to leverage their positions. That can be very beneficial to Americans to understand their position. It's one thing to be in a position. It's a total different thing to understand your position. When you understand your position, that empowers you, okay? And you don't know that until you start traveling. You start traveling, you know. You should learn this before you travel. You should be equipped with this information before you travel, of the hegemony of the American dollar. And this has been going on since 1944, since the Bretton Woods Conference after World War II. It was decided because the American dollar and the American government actually was one of the last ones in that war. War costs money. And a lot of people say, well, war makes money. No, not really. War makes money for the rich. It makes money for corporations. It makes money for central banks, but it doesn't make money for the people, because governments have to loan and borrow money to fight wars and go into debt. And that debt is usually paid by the little guy, me and you. So war is not money. It's money for the rich. It's money for corporations. It's money for the Fortune 500. It's money for Wall Street. It's money for central banks, okay? But not necessarily for governments or the people, because we end up borrowing money to fight wars. And that's what eventually crashed Rome and Greece, the wars. Okay, so the BRICS currently include Brazil, like I said, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Hold up. Is that why we want to pick a war with Russia? We're really trying to pick a war with Russia. We're really trying to pick a war with Russia. We're really trying to pick a war with China. And we're trying to pick a war with them at the same time. Is it because they're challenging the hegemony of the US dollar dominance? Is that the real reason? They're saying that Putin went over there and unprovokingly went and took Ukraine. Ukraine has always been a part of the Golden Curtain. I mean, of the Iron Curtain. Always. They even got Russians that speak Russian in Ukraine. People who call themselves Russians, who born in Ukraine, grew up in Ukraine. Ukraine, if you even watch the Rocky movie, if you watch Creed 2, where Ivan, Drago, and his son, they were Russian, but they lived in Ukraine. Did you see that? So Ukraine has always been a part of Russia. Could you imagine if Russia set up a base in Mexico or Canada? America would never have that. So Russia has been threatening for years, do not allow Ukraine to be part of the UN, because the UN is really an extension of the United States. It is what it is. it's the Western powers, okay? So he feel threatened. They've been, if you go to the map right now, pull up United States Army bases and pull up bases over the last 20 years, you'll see how they've been closing in, closing in, closing in, closing in on Russia, taking more, coming closer and closer and closer to Moscow. And that's why Putin had to strike. But your media make him sound like the provoker, but that's not what's been going on. They're just telling you a lie. So these countries are getting tired. They're getting tired of the lies. They're getting tired of the bullying. They're getting tired of weaponizing the United States power and the hegemony of the US dollar. So they're coming together, bringing their economies together, and it's representing a huge threat. And as of yesterday was the first day that BRICS has surpassed the G7 in GDP and PPP. And some of you guys out there might be like, well, what does that got to do with me? That don't got nothing to do with me. I'm going to tell you something. That got everything to do with you. That got everything to do with you. And this all has to do with you because you sitting on US dollars in your pocket. And this threat is not going to take dollars out your pocket per se, but it's going to diminish the value of the dollars in your pocket. So it does affect you, and it is to your best interest to listen to EB Crypto, understand what I'm trying to say, because if you position yourself the right way, you can make a honey, I want to say sugar, honey, iced tea bunch of money. I want to say that curse word because I'm online. So you understand what I'm saying? You can, anybody that understands what's going on could position themselves when this stuff starts shifting. People won't understand why you're so rich. And it doesn't take millions of dollars to do it. Just a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there, and the right stuff could catapult your behind into a multimillionaire status if you understand what's going on and move in accord to economic trends and understand what's going up, what's going down, what's happening in the world. Information is power, okay? So let's move on. Now, the G7 really is the G20 now. So G just means government 7 or governments 20, which is really the central banks around the world. The Federal Reserve is a central bank. It is not a part of this government. It's very important to understand this because they don't teach this in school. They teach you that the Federal Reserve is a part of the government, and they actually teach you that Uncle Sam won't, is taxing you. No, he's not. The Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by private families, and most of the time we don't even know who these families are, and they loan money to the government. I don't know how important that is for you not to know that. I mean, I think that's very, very important to know that because Federal Express is not the government. Fred Smith owns that company. He just used the name Federal Express. Federal Reserve Act is a central bank act. Go and Google what central banks are, okay? So the G7 is the central banks around the world that has been globally dominating the world. The US dollar has been the #1 hegemony currency, and all the other currencies since Bretton Woods have been anchored to the US dollar, okay? That's being threatened now. So this could represent a world war. It definitely could. So understand why wars are fought. Understanding the money, and like I said, my show is called Follow the Money. And when you understand that, if you follow the money, you're going to get a whole different story than what they're telling you in the news. That's why I follow the money. I follow the money so I can give my people the information that they need to not be in the wrong side of history. I follow the information because I know a lot of my people think it's boring to study economics. We've been taught all through school, oh, mathematics, we can't do mathematics. Mathematics is hard. This is what they constantly, repetitiously tell you. But guess what? You're rappers. You're dancers. You're musicians. Now, some of the top basketball players, watch how they move. It's rhythm. It's rhythm. Rhythm is mathematics. Watch how we dance on TikTok. Dancing is mathematics. It's rhythm. Rhythm has to do with a count. We automatically have a count. We don't have to. If you watch, I watch my little 3-year-old dance. She don't count in her head. She just dance. She just move with the rhythm of the beat because in her nature it's mathematics. Woo! In her nature is mathematics. That's why you can rap. You can rap because you're mathematically inclined to the universe. Mathematics is all through the cells of your body. But you've been taught, oh, I can't do math. I don't like math. I was born with an ability to play drums. Nobody taught me how to play drums. I've been playing drums since I was 4, 5, 6. I was beating up all my mother's pots and pans, just beating the hell out of them. And she got tired of that and bought me a drum set. Okay. But I hear the beat and I can play the beat. I can almost play anything I can hear before I even learned how to read music. So you watch the movie Drumline, oh, I related to that guy because I can hear it and play it. I can see somebody play something and play it because I'm rhythmically, mathematically inclined in my nature, in my cells. You understand what I'm saying? So we are mathematics. So we need to understand this stuff because once we understand it, it's not hard. It's hard if you listen to them, the financial gurus. They make it hard because they want to make themselves seem so smart. And I teach people in the basic layman term levels, understanding. Okay, basically, stimulus package, basically quantitative easing just mean we're gonna print more money. It's just that simple. That's all it means. We're gonna print more money. Stimulus package, we're gonna print more money. That's all it means. Okay, that's all it means. Interest rates hike means that the private bank, the central bank, they loan money to this government. They're finna go up on the rate of return that they want their money. That's all that means. That's that simple. All that other stuff they telling you is to confuse you. They want you to feel like you can't figure this stuff out. So you can just leave it to them to continue to screw you and put you more and more in debt, more and more behind the 8 ball. I'm teaching my people and telling you guys the unadulterated, flat, bottom line truth. No cut, no chase. Like I told you guys, I'm from Compton, California, and that's how we do it. We do it with no chase, no lakes. We give it to you raw. Like ODB said, I like it raw. Don't put all that cut on it. Give it to me raw. And that's how I'm giving it to you guys right now. Now, the interesting part about this G7 that represents Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, who is now dwindling towards BRICS, United Kingdom, and the United States, as well as the European Union. The BRICS is also expanding. Bangladesh, one of the most impactful economies in the world. Billions of people in India. Egypt, they all want to come now to BRICS. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, who was buddy-buddy with America for years and helped the dollar to be the hegemony that it is, meaning that they were very instrumental in helping to keep the US dollar on top because they made a pact with Kissinger back in 71 to only sell oil for US dollars. No matter if you're in China, no matter if you're in Japan, no matter if you're in Indonesia, no matter if you're in India, Russia, you had to convert your dollar to US dollar to buy oil. That's no more. Now Saudi Arabia is like, we're tired of America's hegemony. We're tired of them weaponizing their dollar, telling us who we can be friends with, who we can't be friends with, who we can talk to, who we can go party with. They're tired. So now they're all getting together to destroy the value of the dollar. And I think that has everything to do with you, common people who out there listening, who got a job or who got a little small business, who might have a couple million in the bank, who doing real estate, whoever you are out there, this is going to affect you. And if you sit back and do nothing, it's going to do something to you, whether you do something or not. So it's best to be actionary than reactionary, okay? It's best to be actionary. So let me go ahead and wrap this up. I don't want to be too long here. I just want you guys to see how powerful this is, what's going on. Now, the slap in the face is Mexico now wants to be a part of BRICS. Now, if that's not a slap in the face to America, Mexico was a part of our NAFTA. Mexico was a part of our CTFT or whatever agreements that we had with Canada and Mexico. At one time, they were talking about doing an Amero. I know you guys remember that. It was going to be Canada, America, and Mexico all together. That's over with now. Because now what's happening is Mexico wants to be a part of BRICS. It's expanding. Iran, Turkey, These countries have huge economies. Iran got a lot of oil, a lot of oil. That's why we don't like them, because, you know, they got that oil and we want that oil. Okay, and they Shiite Muslims. So that means that they're not Sunni Muslims. That means that they're revolutionary Muslims. They're jihadist Muslims. Okay, they live by Sharia law, which is Islamic law. They don't live by man's law. So this is why we don't like them. And they got all that oil. Iraq, pretty much the same. They got a lot of oil too, but we kind of got a little hand in Iraq right now, but things are bubbling up there too. But all these countries around the world want to join BRICS, and it's creating a huge problem. And yesterday was the first day in history that it surpassed the G7. 31% of the gross domestic product was with BRICS now. And only 30% is with the G7. And by 2030, they're saying that over 50% of the gross domestic product could be favorable to BRICS. Wow. So knowing that and understanding that, you have the ability to position yourself as things are changing, because America's trying to come up with their own centralized dollar. It's crashing, it's falling. The interest rates in this country went up last year so many times faster than it has ever in one single year. So they're constantly crashing this economy. All these banks, it's 186 banks in America that's just in jeopardy of failing. So they're going to print more money and bail them out, which is going to make inflation go up more. It's going to make the dollar be worth less. So in the next year, you're going to be able to buy less with your dollar. Then you got all these other currents happening around against the dollar. So this is why I'm on crypto. This is why I'm teaching everybody to get you something outside of the US dollar that you control. That the only thing controls its value is buying and selling. That's it. It's not controlled by interest rates, the BRICS, the GDP, the PPP. None of that stuff affects crypto. It does a little bit today because of the psychological understanding of people. Most people in crypto right now, they think it's just Wall Street. So they're all getting in with the wrong understanding that it really represents freedom of value, freedom of transactions. Okay, that's what it really represents. Without government interaction and without interest rates and embargoes and all this other crap, crypto represents free trade, peer-to-peer transactions that individuals can do to one another to transact value without a bank, without a government, without interest rates, without even taxes. So that's what it's all about. It's about freedom. And so the more people start really learning what crypto is about and using it for its purpose, it's going to continue to create value. And there is some cryptos out there, they can't stop, because it's a decentralized technology, meaning that there's no server, there's no way you can shut it off. It's just networks upon networks upon networks, millions and millions of people interacting in these networks, and there's no center point to cut it off. How are you gonna stop something like that? And they're all invisible. Nobody's using their name, their social, their photos. How can you stop something like that? That's a monster. That's a beast. And that's what's happening with decentralized blockchains, is governments really can't stop it. If they wanted to, they couldn't stop it. If you're making millions of dollars every day and they can't see you and you're invisible, why would you stop? Why? You have no reason to stop. And how can they even find you? If you're not using your name, you got to remember your name, your address, your social, all that tracks you to your bank accounts, tracks you to your transactions. But if you're not using that for transactions and you're not using their money, you're using another asset that's a digital asset. See, you see the problem there? They can't control that. That's why they want to propagandize it to death. Oh, you're going to lose your money in crypto. You're going to lose. More people have lost in stocks than any other thing, okay? More people have lost on Vegas than any other thing. There's 80% of the people that invest in stocks lose. They're not telling you that. 80% that go to Wall Street lose. The only way you're going to win if you somebody that studies that stuff every day, you got a lot of information, you got indicators, you got bots, you got brokers, you know, you spending a lot of money, or you got classes. That's the only people make money in that. Average people don't make money in that. That's a scam. But they're not going to tell you that. See, all these banks went out of business. Nobody went to jail. They get bailed out. One crypto exchange go out of business, they lock him up. What's the difference? What's the difference? It still was a run on that cryptocurrency, just like there's a run on the bank. I think what it's called, Silicon Valley Bank went from 175 billion to 42 billion in 48 hours, and nobody went to jail. Interesting. Interesting. In fact, they're getting ready to get bailed out. So know what's going on, understand what's going on. This EB Crypto Family Catching. Follow the money, like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that bell so the algorithms can catch this, so other people can get this information. That's why I'm doing this, to disseminate the information to the people that need it, so they can go do their due diligence. Don't listen to me. Listen to what I say and then go do your own research and go, damn, you know what? He's right. I'm not going to tell you nothing that can't be cross-referenced. I don't want to be a person out here talking and then somebody go and find something and go, hey, man, that was wrong what you said. I research before I talk. So with that, we're going to sign out. See you guys on the next video. Peace.